Hi, this is Mike, and I want to give a shout out before this podcast starts. Today's date is 5/2/2021, and I want to give my thanks to all the first responders that are out there day in and day out, going out and doing the work that they love doing. I know it can get a little tough sometimes. All the scenes that we've seen, a lot of times it's hard to maintain, and we take that home with us. Sometimes we think that the stigma is so thick that we're afraid to say anything. We get home to our families, and we really don't want them to be traumatized by the things that we've done. A lot of times we hold this through our whole careers until we end up leaving our careers, whether we retire or medically retire or just say that's enough. However, a lot of us are leaving law enforcement by suicide, and that is not acceptable because there is help out there. There's people waiting right now to talk to you if you're willing to do so. It takes a lot of courage to get help. It takes a lot of courage to admit to yourself that you have some issues that you probably need to deal with. I bet a lot of it has to do with mental health issues, emotional issues, a lot of things that we shove down into our little safe box, and it's starting to overflow. It's becoming overwhelming. Alcohol might work for a while, might become a problem. Pills, violence, sex, whatever it is, the coping skills that a lot of us first responders use, and I say that from experience, is not healthy. There are a lot of different ways to get that help, but you have to choose to do so yourself. So I want to also give a shout out to Simple Recovery First Responder Wellness. They are located in Newport Beach, California. It's a treatment dual diagnosis facility, specifically treating only first responders. Current, former, retired, fired. Just have to be a first responder, and you just have to have someone that needs help. This place is legit. I worked there as a case manager. It's a good place, good people working there. The clinicians are very competent dealing with our culture of first responders, and we've got a really tight team. The peers that come through our program are truly amazing. They are my heroes because a lot of them come through still employed, knowing that they need some kind of help before it's too late, before they get that DUI, before they get called into the lieutenant's office or IA, before they lose their career. If you're willing to do so, check out First Responder Wellness by Simple Recovery, Newport Beach. And their website is www.firstresponder-wellness.com. Firstresponder-wellness.com. If you don't put the hyphen in, you're going to go to another first responder program. And I can't guarantee any other first responder program than the one that I work at. It's called First Responder Wellness by Simple Recovery. So give them a call. If you want to talk to our admissions staff, they're also very legit. And in the recovery field, I've worked in the classic recovery field, general population, people from all over the place. It's great. There is a lot of healing. However, this is so much different because we are healing amongst other first responders. We're able to open up, talk about things we might not have ever talked about before in our whole lives. And once you get that stuff out, I'm telling you, whatever you're shoving all that emotion stuff into, it starts getting lighter. That backpack that we put all those boulders and bricks in over our lifetime, all those tragic scenes, is another brick, another brick, another brick. If we don't talk about it, if we don't deal with it, we're going to be carrying that in our back. It could be alcoholism too. Could be another bottle, whatever it is. There's help available. I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I went through what I did, because I knew eventually I'd be sitting here talking to you guys that there's help available. Because not too long ago, there wasn't. And it's starting to grow. So if you are curious about it, Google it. Pick up your phone. That's not hard to do. It's hard to pick up the phone if you're going to make a phone call. Google first responder-wellness.com. And you can see the staff. You can see what the program's about. You can compare it to other programs. You can give us a call. You can give us a call anonymously. Doesn't make a difference. So let's move on with that talk, and let's move on to this podcast. Cassie Sexton is a current dispatcher. She's been through a lot of stuff, and I want to say also that Assembly Bill 1945 was enacted last year, making dispatchers first responders on paper, which they should have been a long time ago. You know, give your dispatchers maybe a little bit more time, listen to them, and maybe they need to talk, because they are the heart and soul of every first responder department around this country, and they're often overlooked. So talk to them. They might have a lot to say. We need them just like they need you. Hi, this is Mike Cook, and welcome to Positive Connections Radio. This show is intended to help break the stigma of mental health issues among first responders. I know from personal experience how PTSD, depression, and addiction can take over your life while suffering in silence. I was a police officer for 19 years and spent the last 10 years of my career as an undercover narcotics detective. I didn't reach out because of fear, lack of trust, shame, and stigma. It took me losing it all before I got help. With a new perspective and passion for life, I can now help others find a way out. Working together with peer support, wellness units, and the mental health and recovery field, we can bring about positive change for the ones who protect us all. The guests in this show offer unique and valuable information, support, and experience, and are the voice for those waiting to be heard. Enjoy the show. Well, welcome, Cassie, to Positive Connections Radio. It's great seeing you.
Great seeing you.
Cassie Sexton is a dispatcher, and I am so happy to have her on our show. Cassie, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into becoming a dispatcher to where you're at right now?
So I've been in law enforcement for 13 years this year. I started off actually in parking enforcement. And before law enforcement, I was a dance teacher and I was going to school to be a teacher. And I already found myself getting burned out. And I realized that real quick that was not going to be the career for me. And at the time I had a friend who was a jail officer, or they called it a police services officer, community services officer. And he worked in the jail and in the field in parking. And I used to ask him every day, like, tell me about your day. Tell me more. And he, I think, got real tired of it real quick. And he was like, can you just apply already, basically? And I had another really good friend of mine who at the time worked in parking, because we were all young, like 18, 19 at the time. He worked in parking up in LA County. And between the two of them, they got me really inspired to get into the career. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. I had no idea. Here I was just 18, 19, dance teacher, bubbly, smiley girl, walking into a career field I had known nothing about and didn't know what trauma was about to hit me full front either, and was not prepared for it. I put into 2 applications into 2 different cities in Orange County. One picked me up faster. I put myself into parking because I had the option of records or parking. And I was like, yeah, I want to be outside on the beach. Heck yeah.
Right.
I get out there. I was happy. I worked in a city that loved the police. That agency was very blessed for a city that the community supported us. And I was really happy about that. I very quickly got deemed being too smiley out there, unfortunately. And that comes across really sarcastic, I think, as you're handing off parking sites to the public.
Right. And you're smiling and giving it to them.
And it was not intentional, right? Like I was happy to have a job and be out on the beach. And like, I was just happy to be around people. And I'm like, have a nice day. And you forget that you're giving people a parking site. Cause
Right.
I've realized in the world, the most hated people are parking people and animal control people. So I did that for a little while. And then I got promoted into the jail. And there's where I got my really thick skin, did a jail academy, became a jail officer, learned how to fight. I had no idea what I was capable of. Probably, I would say one of my hardest accomplishments. I didn't know that I had that in me. Mm-hmm. I have made lifelong friends doing that job, people that I still talk to every day now. I tested myself in mental ways, physical ways. I very quickly realized that I was passionate about the job by just doing that job. During which just before that, actually, I'll back up a little bit. In parking, the reason why that was important is that's when I went to dispatch school. I was still living at home and my parents said you had to go to school or get out.
Right.
Because you have to be full-time in a job or go to school. And I said, okay, I'll go to school. I'll take this class. I was already going to school before that, but I had to have pause because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Take this dispatcher class because it will help me at work. I don't want to be a dispatcher. I want to be a cop now.
Right. It
will help me on the radio and all my cool things that I'm doing now. I realized like, hey, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. Decided in the jail, I still want to be a cop. Some things happened in my life that I was like, this is really dangerous. And maybe I had that mortality fear all of a sudden where I started realizing like this is a lot more dangerous than people say. I started losing people. I started watching cops die. Had my first officer in my life die of suicide. That was a huge factor for me. A local officer that had mentored me killed himself. And I realized, wow, life is like really short. And I was young.
Did you realize at the time how bad suicide among first responders were? Cops,
I had no idea yet.
Okay.
That had not hit me. That was coming though. Like this was right around the corner for me. But at that point I was like, wow, he seemed fine.
Yeah.
That was still in my head. Like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I can still remember exactly that day. I was getting ready to go on a date. And like, I remember the friend from my jail academy calling me and saying, hey, you better sit down. Like, I mean, like I was going to an Angels game. Like, I mean, all these things were hitting me and I'm like, what do you mean? Like that can't happen. And then, you know, it started hitting me that like, we're not okay.
Yeah.
And it could be anyone. It could be me. Like,
and how hard was it for the department? How did they deal with that, the suicide?
So it wasn't mine, but I remember showing up in uniform and that officer got a funeral with the officers showed up in full uniform.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that to me meant something. They didn't do a full service, like a full law enforcement service as compared to like we went to the graveside and did the whole like honors, but right. We still went to a church and they had the whole department there in uniform. And that to me still meant something. Whereas I then in the future would see that change where I had other officers in my life that did not get that.
Right. They were sort of shunned maybe, or the department wouldn't talk about it, sweep it under the rug a little bit.
Yes. And that had an effect on my healing and what would transpire in my life as well. So then fast forward in my life, some things happened in my city jail that like, we weren't sure. One of my partners gets arrested. We get worried that our jail's going to close. So then they tell us, hey, you might want to start looking at other jobs or other possibilities. I go, hey, I'm already got education in dispatch. I really like it. I've already been thinking of looking that way. I've been working with the dispatchers. I think I'd be good at it. I want to take a stab at that. I go to dispatch upstairs. I end up loving it. And here I am 10 years later, still dispatching.
Wow.
I don't work for that agency anymore. I lateraled. I have had a lot of different experience. I've built computer systems. I've done training. I've got a little experience in supervisor. I'm not a supervisor anymore because when I lateraled, I gave that up. I've got a little bit of different everything.
Right.
I am passionate about training. I'm passionate about teaching. That's where my little niche is, I think. I'm most passionate now about teaching wellness because that's where my passion is because of what I've gone through. But my story really took a turn for me when I went on leave a couple years ago for 10 months because of stress and PTSD.
Okay, and so let's just back it up. So you started dispatching 10 years ago and you went into it thinking that, you felt confident about doing it and you probably felt safer because you weren't on the streets. But realistically, is dispatching safer emotionally? Because a lot of us overlook the dispatchers. You're the first to answer the call. You get the screaming parents. You get the dying people on the phone. You need to send help. You need to walk them through step by step, whether it's CPR or first aid, and also send the units to the scene. The units get to the scene, and you're pretty much cut off trying to use your imagination to figure out what's really going on. So that has to be a lot of stress that you're taking in.
And that's a good point. And I used to tell people, because for a long time when I gave up the jail, I felt like a guilt of, I gave up the cool job for dispatching. I felt like I went inside, even though the jail was inside, right? Because I was in the jail, I gave up the action job for a more subdued job. But I said, I gave up the physical stress for the emotional stress.
Yes.
Or the physical excitement for the emotional excitement. Because I used to explain to the cops and the people, I get the same emotional thrill and excitement that they get when they're doing their pursuits or their hot calls or their whatever, what have you. It's the same.
Yes.
Just because they're doing the physical doesn't mean that I'm not getting the same adrenaline kick that they're getting. It is the same. And I used to say it's a thrill, and now it is a stress. It is not something that you get those junkies, right? And it is the addiction to the excitement.
Of course, adrenaline rush, the high of actually getting to that point.
And I had that, my whole first, I'd say 8 years of my career, yes, the pursuit is coming this way. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then now it is please don't come this way because I don't want that, because the after effects is not worth it for me.
Right.
The dump is not worth it. I don't want the heart racing or to worry if my officer is going to not make it or to worry if that citizen's not going to make it. I don't want all the feels. I'd rather everything just be okay and know that it's going to be okay and to stay in control. There's so much emotion that goes into this job and stress and control. And I got into this job loving it because I am a control freak and OCD and perfectionist and all the things, all the isms. And that was great. However, what I didn't know coming into this job is I did succeed so well because I was raised in a family that taught me not to handle my emotions well and not to feel my emotions, because that's how my whole family did it. Wait, that's how we do it in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Let's dust everything under the rug and not feel the feels.
Sure. Let's talk about that a little bit too. First of all, you're talking about the adrenaline dump when there's a pursuit and the adrenaline dump when everything's over with, hang up the phone. Now, dispatchers, just like a lot of cops and firefighters too, you don't get to take a little breather and break and say, okay, that was just crazy. Let's talk about it. A lot of times you're getting the phone's ringing while you're, leaving the first call, and it could be any call. You don't know what's on the other line. So Tell me about that and the buildup of all that over the years and where that led to.
So for me, it's on to the next, right? So like the show must go on. So I could be working like a crazy pursuit call, or for instance, if I'm working phones, I could be dealing with like a shooting subject or suspect or something like that, where I just hung up the call with that, or like a suicide caller. I'm hanging up that, and I literally could be like, high adrenaline. Finally, it's done and it's over with. I'm disconnecting, and then I'm picking up the next call, and they're like, hi, I'm reporting a barking dog.
Exactly.
And I'm like, holy shit. Sorry. Oops.
No, you can cuss all you
want. It's like you're still up here, and they're like, I'm reporting a barking dog complaint, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, yeah. But they have no idea. No. They're just living the beach life, and they want to call on a barking dog because that's normal.
Of course.
They have no idea what's going on the other 18 lines of phone calls that we have. Like, and that's not their problem. That's not their fault. No. And it's not, and that doesn't happen every day, right? Like, it's relatively safe, and we hardly ever have those calls. But when it does, in my city, I mean, some cities that happens every night, but for the most part, like, when we take those calls, we're stuck up here, but we have to move on.
Sure.
Whereas like for some like officers, you're in the field, you're on that call and you're assigned to it, and you're there for a while, and you have the time to kind of process it. But then we're just moving on to the next.
Right. And you could say that if you go 10-8 too, and then you get called for a call, you can go around the corner or whatever and just sort of breathe for a second and take a drink. Mm-hmm. But, you're talking about also not talking about our feelings and not talking about emotions, whether you're grown up that way or not. It's the culture of law enforcement and first responder related fields that we don't show that emotion. We don't show that vulnerability, especially in the field, of course, especially when you're on a call. But afterwards, we don't want to talk about those things, not only because they're painful, but it might look like it's a weakness, a form of weakness. Do you feel that still? Have you felt that over the years? And do you see anything changing in the positive where we're actually able to process and go through these things?
So I see a positive change shifting. It's slow and steady, and I am seeing that a little bit at a time. I think some agencies are making that change. I don't know about all of them because I obviously can't see every agency. I know like my agency, I've seen a little bit of a shift. Some other agencies, when I go to trainings, I hear about some. Sometimes I hear agencies say no, like ours has not. I think for me, like I've gone in trying to be the change and trying to set the example, right? Like I went through all this treatment, and I know we'll probably get to that part of my story, but like I show up every day trying to be like, hey, I'm going to have those difficult conversations, and I'm okay being that person where I'm like, hey, if I'm not okay with something or I want to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. And with the hopes of that, I'll set that example so that others feel comfortable coming to me and talking about their feelings. I know for some, I've watched that like awkward squirm where they're like, oh, I don't like talking about feelings. And one of the biggest things I've learned from being around other first responders who love talking about this stuff and love wellness is it's just feelings, and they're not going to kill you. You can sit in the uncomfortableness and talk about it. And going to debriefs and going to other trainings and peer support and learning what to take that armor off and just share what's going on and processing it. There's an appropriate time to take the armor off and be in the safe container and share those feelings versus doing it in the field. Yeah, it's not appropriate to be in the field on the call and rip the armor off in front of the citizens and everyone and be vulnerable. However, when you're back at the station in the safe container where we're processing together and sharing with each other because you need a good debrief, that's appropriate.
Right. As long as you feel safe. And I think more departments around the nation are getting closer to that because we do have to protect our own because it's wild out there for sure. So you go in this career and 8 years into it, what happened?
I had a complete breakdown, or like, as I call it now, a breakthrough.
Okay, good. I like that. The positive.
Yeah, positive.
Into it, yes.
But at the time, I thought I was falling through a complete black hole.
Okay.
I had the year before, year 7, lost a captain to suicide. He had killed his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously his funeral was a lot different than the other one that I had lost. He killed his girlfriend and himself, which caused a SWAT call out in our own city. I worked for a tri-city, a joint powers. So it was like a 3-city dispatch center. So he lived in one of the cities opposite of where he worked.
Right.
And then I, 2 or 3 months later, lost another officer to a car crash.
Wow.
And it was the same weekend as the Vegas shooting. And that was the same weekend that we were starting our communications training officer course. So all this happened with all this emotion. And then we just went to training like everything was fine.
Wow.
And it was like, I remember I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. And I shared this story earlier in a training class that I teach. I went to training school that Monday with another coworker, and her and I went together. And then there were other people in that class who were in the Vegas shooting. And all of us were just there, expected to like pull it together. And I mean, we did fine because we are professionals.
Sure.
We're professionals at shoving the emotions down. Pull your shit together.
Yep.
And I was just thinking to myself, how the fuck did we do that? And, but we did. We pulled it together. And then, that captain dying, not celebrating his life, everything, all the shit talked about him, because suddenly that one incident changed all the good things he did.
Right.
We didn't celebrate him or anything because that one incident changed everything about who he was. And then that officer that died in the car crash was tragic. And he was a friend and a great officer. And we celebrated his life and mourned him in the normal traditional way, which was 100% understandable, but it was so different just 3 months apart.
Right.
And so to me, my mind could not grasp and mourn. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go talk to someone, a therapist. I finally was like, okay, I'm falling apart. I need to go talk to someone. This was year 7. And I did. And a good control freak, I told the therapist, and I know you would probably understand this. I said, I'm here to talk to you about work only.
Of course. That's all you're going to talk about. Nothing inside.
And I said, nothing else, work only. And she laughed. She said, okay, we'll see how that goes.
Right.
She starts pulling.
Have you ever thought before, even starting, even young, getting into the jails and stuff, did you ever think about, what did you think about going to therapy, going to a clinician or a counselor for emotional issues? And what was the word around where you were working at the time?
So I had gone when I was a teenager, and I thought for family stuff, right? Because I had sexual trauma when I was a kid. And then I had some family issues, and I was adopted as a teenager and stuff. So I had tried going to talk therapy, and I, in my head, was like, that didn't work for me.
So it'll never work for you.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
So I was like, oh, it works for lots of people, but not for me. And I was like, nope. And then, of course, how many people say that?
First responders, or just people in general? People in general,
and first responders. I hear that every day at work. And amongst my first responder people, I hear it. That doesn't work for me. Have you tried it? Well, no, but I just know it doesn't work.
Right.
Group therapy doesn't work for me. I'm like, do you even know what it is?
Yeah. Do you know what works for you? It's always what doesn't work for you, or you're just afraid to stand up to it. You know, that fear keeps us sick for a long time.
It did for me. And in the community, going to therapy was a sign of weakness, it felt like. And you definitely didn't talk about it.
Yeah, so you just want to go in there, you told her you're just going to talk about work related stuff, but she wasn't going to dig way down deep to your childhood and everything else
Yeah. So
leading up to that.
she started pulling threads and very quickly did the rug unravel, and I unraveled. And within that year, I started to be like, whoa, unbalanced. And so I was like, I need meds, I think. So I went to a doctor and I got meds, and then I felt way even more unbalanced. And I know that's a process, and it just became, my sleep was a mess. I was on nights, and I could not handle life. I was selling my place in Fullerton and buying an Aliso. It was like, I was doing all these things and moving around. And surely enough, like, what I had never had a problem with was what I thought was anxiety. I always just had severe depression. Like, I would check out of work, come here, sleep for days, go back to work. Coping mechanisms for me, sex. Mine was never alcohol and drugs. Mine was sleep pills, sex, shopping. And that was mainly my thing.
Right. I was just like, escape it all.
Yeah. I did not have any problems with like alcohol. Occasionally, if I did, it was like a one night binge, but I really didn't drink at all. But I just like put it out. I would sleep for days and go right back to work. And work was where I was definitely a workaholic. I worked both jobs for a while at both agencies where I was working like 60 to 80 hours a week.
Right. And
I had that fake success where everyone's like, I thought she was great. She bought a condo early in her life, like at 23, 24 years old. I was able to like pull it off where everyone thought everything was fine.
Everything on the outside looks great.
Oh yeah. And I was a rock star getting accommodations, everyone. I mean, like, yeah, all these projects at work and then falling apart on the inside at home.
Yeah.
And then I checked out and anxiety all of a sudden through the roof. It got to the point where there was a windstorm one day. And I was already having physical symptoms at home where I would like pace on my time off. I was staying at my parents' house because my place was getting remodeled here. My place in Fullerton was sold. I was starting to like throw up before work or like pass out. I was getting these physical symptoms. I like could not get myself to even get in the car to go to work. Then a windstorm happened. I was driving home on night shift. It took me, instead of 30 minutes to get home, 2 hours because I took inner streets thinking I was going to die from a falling tree.
Wow.
Never have I ever had problems driving. Some bizarro anxiety attack that I had had out of nowhere. So my mom and dad were kind enough to drive me to work for like that week. And then I finally was like, I can't do this anymore.
Did you tell anybody at work when you got to work? Did you have any close peers that you were saying, my life's unraveling, I don't know what to do?
No, I didn't trust anyone yet.
Yeah.
Not there. I mean, like I had told my bosses that like, I need to go. Like, I can't, I'm calling out sick. Like I'm having an emergency. My one boss is like familiar with mental health. And so I was like, okay, I trusted him the most.
Sure.
And so I leaned on him. And my main boss, I told her, but other than that, no one knew what was going on. I finally went on leave, tested it for about a month, tried to come back, fell apart again. This was right at my 30th birthday. And I canceled everything. I was out for the count at that point. And then I was gone from work and I lost my identity. I thought the badge was everything to me. Like I didn't know who I was without it.
Was your passion gone too at that point? You don't remember exactly what you felt before you got to that point where your life's just out of control and you don't know what to do?
I think that would be accurate because I didn't know why I was doing it anymore. And I also, oddly enough, couldn't grasp the concept that when I wasn't there, people would answer the phone when I wasn't there.
Right.
Which I know, I mean, people answer 911 when I go home at night.
Yeah.
Or during the day. But for some reason, me not being there was making me distraught.
I get it.
And so I left and then I was getting help. Like I was in therapy a lot and getting meds and stuff like all during this time. I had hope finally though. I had gone and got brain scans.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time ever, it showed I actually was diagnosed with PTSD. And I was like, wow, I'm not just in a dark hole.
Right.
Like I can get help for this. Like this piece of paper with this scan shows it. I have PTSD. Like, okay, this job fucked me up.
Yeah.
But like, I'm okay. Like, I'm going to get better. And I thought I had like a light at the end of the tunnel, but I did not. Like, I spiraled deeper for a couple months. And then I had a suicide attempt at my parents. And I checked myself into treatment for a month in San Diego. And that was probably the best thing I could have ever done. I had a lot of shame and guilt for a long time because I never thought it would be me. Because I helped those people.
Yeah, exactly.
I talked those people off ledges all day. I was mad at my friends who had done it before. I listened to people all day long say like, those people are cowards, or why would you do that, or whatever. And for me to sit there and be the one who did it, I was like, it's not coward. I'm not a coward. I was doing it for other people because I was tired of being a burden. I didn't think about myself at all when I was doing it.
Yeah, you're just tired of living that. You're probably in a lot of pain, emotional, and you felt like you're being on burden or other because you're a helper.
100%. Yeah.
You're the helper. You're there. That's why you can't leave dispatch, because when you leave dispatch, what are they going to do without you there?
Yeah. And so I went to treatment the first set, and I like break it always down because like that first 30 days where I was in treatment, they taught me what my emotions were. And like, it was so overwhelming because I'm like, wow, I can actually feel something. And then I came home and I went to 10 weeks of intensive outpatient where I went every day.
Right.
And that was how to feel my emotions. Then I found the fellowship. And this is like my bread and butter because this is what my passion is. And I found them, and they're my tribe of law enforcement people, and the support group for first responders, tribe of people like-minded. And they're the people who get it, right? People like us who you need to lean in and talk to, who understand the trauma that we get every day. First responders, veterans, it's so unique what we go through. Not everybody gets it. Like I can't go to my mom or like a sibling or someone and just start spouting off things that happen at work because they look at me like, what did you just say? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forget you don't understand the weirdness that happens there.
And they never will, even if you watch as many cop shows as they can, unless you have been a first responder or a first responder or are really close to a first responder network, especially when you're working with them. Tell us about this fellowship, because it sounds like it changed things, and this is not a fellowship based on AA or any kind of like alcohol, drugs, whatever, recovery. This is a fellowship just for first responders suffering from all kinds of things: anxiety, depression, PTS, drugs, alcohol, all that stuff. So tell us a little bit about that and when that came into your life.
Yeah. So right after I got out, like towards the end of my intensive outpatient, when my schedule opened up, because I was going every day and then it lessened to like 3 days a week. My best friend actually was the one that had found a support group originally, and it was up in LA County. And I'm like, wow, that's a really long ways for me to drive. I had called them and they put me in touch with Maddie, who was in charge of the fellowship at the time. And he still is, but I lead it now for him because
you took it over, Cassie.
I know. I always
which is good.
I'm like, it's Maddie's baby, but it's also my baby. We share it, okay?
Yeah, it's a communal baby.
It's a communal baby, Maddie and I. It's it's a group that is for everyone. You can come if you have alcohol issues, drug issues, mental health, PTSD, even if you just have a tough call that you want to come talk through, you get bad dreams, if you're having family issues. I mean, like, it is literally for anyone and everyone. It doesn't matter if you even have, we have people that are just on peer support team who just want to come and hang out with other first responders. Like, it literally doesn't mean you have to come if there's problems. Like,
right.
We just come to hang out with other first responders sometimes. Like, there's one in person in Orange County. There's one on Zoom that has grown so big. Like, we have people from all over the states that come to that. There's some in LA County, some in San Diego County. Like, I mean, this thing is such an amazing program.
And I know a lot about it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of listeners probably don't. A lot of the dispatchers listening might not. They might have heard of something like this, but it is a great way to be, just like you said, Cassie, be as a group, first responders from all different walks, all different departments, suffering from all kinds of things, or maybe not, just wanting to be in a group where you can have a confidential, safe environment where you can talk about your feelings and not be judged, because we all open up and we're all very honest about it. And I do want to commend you and thank you for opening up that Zoom when COVID hit and we had all those lockdowns, because I'm telling you, whether it's via Zoom or in person, via Zoom is the new way we're able to connect more people together, of course, and it's a little more convenient. And now you've got people they can't even drive to the location, even if you were to take down Zoom and open up in person. So thank you so much. You are, serving the community and serving your fellow brothers and sisters to have that outlet. They might not go every week, but they know it's there. Thursday nights at 7:00, you're going to be on it. So thank you for that. And so the fellowship was there for you a couple years back, and you found it. And what happened when you found it and you walked into one of those meetings?
I remember the first day I walked into and seeing one of the members sitting on the couch, and I kind of was like, is this it? Like, am I here? And he's like, yep, you're in the right place. Cause I looked lost. And he was like, we're just waiting for them to finish their group, and then we'll go in. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, how's this work? And then they finished group and we went in, and it was only like 6 of us back then. Mm-hmm. And then it grew to...
Let me stop you real quick. At that point, have you ever been to like a community group like that before, like a process group?
So I had been to group. Yes. So because I had gone to like IOP and like group therapy and stuff. So I had been to like group therapy and process groups from my treatment. So I had known how it worked, but I had never been to like a first responder one.
Right.
So I was kind of curious how that was going to go. Cause I'm like, okay, you're going to get a bunch of tough people in a room. Let's see how this goes. Like, I was real interested.
Yeah.
And so when I walked in, I was like, okay, how much are they really going to share? Like, I was really nervous. And also I was nervous to see if I was going to see anyone I knew, because it was in Orange County and it was first responder based. And that first day I didn't, but I have seen people I knew.
Yeah.
And it's been really freaking incredible, because I'll tell you what, like, I've made some of the best friends out of that group and brothers and sisters. And I've grown the most from going to that group, and it is so healing.
I can tell that brings up a lot in you. Yep.
Yeah. Thursday nights are my favorite day, because to see everybody on my screen every Thursday, and the laughter and the joy that happens in the beginning when we just shoot the breeze and like have fun in the beginning. And I know we lock it down and like have our group, right? And it gets all like formal. We do our introduction and our spiel and we do our shares. But like in the beginning, when we're just shooting the breeze and having fun and being silly and hyping up and stuff, it's fun. And then, it's like, some of us have never met in person, but it's like, you feel like you know them. And then, if shit really hit the fan, that all of us would jump in a car and go help them.
And you guys have. You've got
we have
more than one or two occasions. I know that.
A few of us. Yeah. And so, it's one of those things, we're a family and we're a tribe, and we have group chat and we talk every day. And it's like, it's special. And the only other place I felt that tribe feel is by going to Save a Warrior, and that's another special place.
Right. So let's talk about that. It's people call it SAW, and then they don't know people know what
Yeah.
SAW is, but it's called Save a Warrior. And tell everybody what that's all about.
So that's the other program that I always will push for or like share about. Save a Warrior is a retreat, like spiritual retreat, as I'll call it, or experience. There's a base camp here in California and one in Ohio, and it's for veterans and first responders only, and it's free. That's what I always will push. You apply online, and it's 3 or 4 days, and you go, and it is life-changing. It is a way to go and process some of your trauma, your childhood trauma, the way you think. They give you resources that you don't just walk out the door and you're like kind of lost on where to go. They help set you up so that you can continue the work.
Right.
And the other part is you leave there with community, just like what we have with our group. And the special part is like many of us in our tribe have already gone there. So like there was already that community feel when I left to go to this Save a Warrior. And then when I came back, I already had the support back here.
Sure.
So I have my group here that's from Save a Warrior. And then I have my sisters that I went with. And I was lucky that I had a really small cohort is what they call it, the group that you go with.
Right.
The 4 of us that went, we still talk every day on a message too. And we already have met up once since our trip. And then we're meeting up again in September. So we like to kind of meet up at our 6-month mark every year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Really special for us.
It's great. And the program is special. I've known a lot of people that went through it. You've actually lit the fire of a few people to get into that program, spreading the word about it too. And the camaraderie you get from being there. I know some people are listening to this right now and they feel like their problem's unique, but they probably do relate to your depression, not getting out of bed, doing these different activities to sort of disassociate yourself with your inner emotions and not want to talk about it. You think something wrong. But knowing that there is this resource of people just like us that have the courage enough to actually make that phone call. You know, they always say it's a 10,000 pound phone, call that you make. It takes so much to just to pick up your phone and dial someone and hear their voice on the line and say that, you need some help, and it's okay to get help. And getting through one of these programs, I love that you talk about this, because the more of us that do talk about it, the more of us are going to get help, or think that we know that we can have the courage to do so.
So true. And I know that phone is so heavy, and that's the difference between back then and now for me. Is back then I was afraid to call. I didn't call my best friends. I didn't call my parents. I remember the day that I told my best friends that I was suicidal and that I was going to treatment and all that. Like, it was so much. And I remember watching them get emotional and hug me, and how welcoming they were to me about that. I was so worried that they were going to be judgmental, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And they've been along the road with me from day one of my healing journey. They still are supportive. It's so easy now for me to call one of my friends, either them or someone from my tribe. I just did that last week. On Wednesday, I was having I need a pep talk before work.
Yeah.
Called up my co-lead from my tribe. Hey, I need a pep talk on my way to work because I'm having a bad day. And he's like, no problem. I got you. Here we go.
Nice. That's great. That's friendship.
Yeah.
Yes. Good for you. Good for you. So where are you at right now? You went through all that. And I know there's people listening, dispatchers listening. They might be in a similar situation. I remember working with them. And I think during my career, I probably could have been a little bit more understanding of their circumstances and open to them, because you're stuck in a room for your whole shift, 8-12 hours at a time. And you see the officers come in the shift, sometimes during lunch or whatever, if they're close to the station, and you get tidbits here and there. but sometimes you're overlooked, and a lot of us feel like we don't have any kind of control over our lives anymore. What would you say to the dispatchers listening right now, and how would they be able to get a hold of you or some program where they might be able just to talk freely?
Absolutely. So the most important thing about me now, and the thing that I like to share, is I know I get a lot of comments about this, that like, I like to try and inspire people to pick up the phone or to make this first step or to do whatever they feel they need to do to have the strength to make the change. Right. I'm human. I didn't do anything miraculous, is what I would say. Like, I changed my life. Yes. Like, and for the better. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I can genuinely say that. And it took me 13 years to do that from the start of my career. However, I'm still in recovery. And I had someone tell me that this week, and that was one of the most profound things I heard. I'm not recovered. I'm in recovery. Mm-hmm. So I'm not perfect. I still have days where it's a struggle, and I have to work my ass off to keep myself in check every single day. Mm-hmm. And it is hard. And I will tell you, my day, I'm so boring because I have a daily routine that I have to follow to make sure that I keep myself in check. I have to meditate every day. And that is my biggest thing that I have to make sure I keep myself in check, is walks and daily routine as far as meditation and baths, like self-care. Those are my things that I do to make sure. You have to find out for you what your self-care is. Make sure you're scheduling that. People don't take care of themselves. And that's one of the things that causes them to lose sight of like being okay, I found. So taking care of themselves, whatever that may be, exercise, meditation, scheduling time for themselves, reaching out to me. I'm always available for any kind of call or email. I have a peer support number that I have on flyers. I don't know if Mike, you want to give it out, or
I can put it on the podcast itself, or do you want me to? Do you want to say it now on the radio, or do you want me to put it on the podcast itself when we start?
Yeah, my peer support number is 714-485-5328. And so any of the first responders that are listening, if you want to reach out or you want to get the Zoom link to meet up with us on Thursday nights, I'm available for that.
Okay, so people that missed it, 714-485-5328 for Cassie. Yeah, give her a call. You have the number. You pick up the phone, even asking questions. You're already part of the club, if you want to think of it as that, because you're a first responder. And it really is tough. I love how you talk about getting balance and having that self-care and the things that you need to do every day to keep you in check. And the biggest thing about it is no one's forcing you to do it. It's 100% your choice to do it. And whether it's meditation, I know warrior meditation, that's really powerful. And anything that where you're out of self. And a lot of us want to start this job, whatever it is, whether you're working fire, police, EMT, dispatch, military, I don't care what it is. We start off so strong. We put all these hours into it and we forget about number one. We have to be number one. Our recovery has to be number one. And yeah, you might be quote unquote, recovered from that feeling of hopelessness, but being in recovery in long-term sense is a blessing, because you get to every day you have a group of people now that you didn't have 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago that you could call at any time. You have a network of people that you're open and willing to share with. You have peer support groups and fellowships where you can pretty much you can talk about anything, and no one's going to blink an eye, because we all want to say those things that we're hiding deep down inside for fear of some kind of internal retribution from our department, A lot of cops don't want to lose their badge and gun because, they have all these emotions, these things that come out of our eyes. They're called, what are they? Tears, tears, those wet things. So, we don't even want to talk about that. And it's great to see. It's great to see the movement. It's great to see the change and this shift, because we have it hard enough out there. And the pendulum has swung so far to one side right now where, we are getting beat up left and right. And all the good that we are doing is being overlooked. And I want to make sure people like you, Cassie, and others that are doing this and actually working on themselves can share their message of strength, hope, and know that you're not alone and there is help out there for sure.
Thanks, Mike. That's amazing.
Yeah, you're amazing, and everything that you're doing is amazing. And I'm just so glad that you're with us, and I'm glad that you're a friend of mine and I get to see you in person, and I'm glad I'm part of the group. So thank you so much for being on the show, Cassie. I think you really said a lot of good things.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything else that you want to add before we end?
I've got lots of resources for different retreats too, in different places. So if you're in different areas and not just in the SoCal area, we have lots of different places to go to as well. I know Mike's been to different retreats too, West Coast Trauma Retreat and a couple other places. So if anyone else has any other places they want to go, we have all the resources.
You bet. And she does, you guys. Call her. Give her a call, 714-485-5328. Call her and just, she's a good person. She's good people, and she's there to help out and give you any kind of referrals you need. So thanks again, Cassie, for being on the show. And everybody else that's listening, please have a safe and good week, and be nice to each other. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to Positive Connections Radio, in affiliation with Mental Health News Radio. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, be strong, stand up, speak your truth, and break the stigma.